High Vibe Conversations are live again. I'm Ambassador Terry, along with the
Linda Vettrus-Nichols.
Smiles all around, and a very serious conversation today. Narcissism. What's your story?
Right?
Heavy stuff. Heavy stuff. Linda, take it away.
Yep. Well, just read these guys' books and we'll be done.
Okay, that's a wrap.
I know. When it comes to this subject, we've all been together for about 2 years now, and I'm not sure.
Linda, you're muted.
Oh.
Let's try unmute. I bet it would be really entertaining.
Thank you, Michelle. God. We've all been together for about 2 years, and I'm not sure we knew that word maybe in the past. If we did, we certainly all have a much clearer understanding and watching it operate in our own spheres of influence, if you will, and what we've done about it. So yeah, it's a heavy topic, and sometimes, not sometimes, a lot of times you lose your voice. And so it's interesting I was muted.
Yeah, right. And you had a client who had a story around narcissism, and she's done well with that book.
Yeah,
and,
my soulmate.
And then here you guys come along within 3-4 months. This whole conversation begins. It's very interesting how the universe will bring that energy in and give it voice.
Yeah, he's referring to Dr. Bindu Babu's book, My Soulmate, My Love, My Narcissist. And her work was really fascinating, and we even put her, what do they call that? Doctoral paper. You're getting your PhD.
Right, thesis.
Her thesis into the book, and yet kept the book super, super simple, and then created a Thinkific course. So, and it was real fun because if you hadn't read the book, the course just had the teachings, and yet when you read the book, it'd be like aha, and almost another teaching using the same material. So that was really cool. And watching her, she has her own personal background in that, as well as a professional. So to see the the results of her work, even she was very scientific, so anything in the world of like energy or chakras was like, no, didn't believe in it at all. She came full circle, and she's helped so many women fall back in love with themselves, be able to love themselves, maybe even for the first time, and they can even be around the narcissist in their life without doing gray rocking and all of that. And it was a fascinating read. So I learned a lot from that. I've learned a lot from all of us sharing our stories as well. So Steena, I'm going to jump to you. What do you think when you hear that word narcissism, or that topic of narcissism?
Oh, the first thing that came to mind today when I heard that was our topic, was that narcissists really like for you to forget who you are. And the way that they will pull you in, it's usually like some of them do work quickly, but it's like it's this slow, sneaky kind of like drawing you in, where you kind of fail to use your better judgment for a variety of reasons. You will kind of give them the benefit of the doubt too often. You will accept their flaws because the good part of them is so good. And so there's a lot of inner dialogue for the victim of the narcissist, where we're like justifying their actions and we're kind of talking ourselves into it. And so that kind of comes from a lifetime usually of some kind of codependency, people pleasing, also like mental health conditions like OCD can really lend themselves, like they're like a very handy tool for the narcissist, because if you can play on someone's um, ruminations and their fears and their anxieties, then you can really rope them in. And so I've learned that the work that you need to do on yourself if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, whether it's a partner, a parent, a friend, a coworker, a boss, whoever, is work that everyone could do and benefit from, whether you think you're in a relationship with a narcissist or not, because it's about reestablishing your autonomy and remembering who you are. And like you were saying from Bindu's work, that loving yourself it's loving yourself enough to stand your ground, hold your boundaries, not allow another person in farther than they deserve to be. And so there's this like caution that you learn to have with people, that it's not suspicion. It's not like you're going around being suspicious of people or assuming the worst of them, but just like a healthy caution about, how should I let this person in, and how have they actually shown me with their behavior that they're authentic, that they are really loving, that they are really caring. Because there's a lot of talk from narcissists as well. So they like to talk really big, and they like to paint those big pictures, and they like to kind of, what's the word, grandiose, like they like to be very grandiose, especially if you're dealing with the more overt kind of bold narcissism. There is like the covert narcissism, which is not as obvious when you encounter, but it's just as insidious, and it can be even more maddening because you feel like you're kind of like chasing, like gophers underground. You're just kind of like, well, there's, or moles, like there's a molehill, but I don't know where the tunnel goes. It's not like just hunting an animal above ground. It has that like underground feeling where you're like, like trying to figure out what to do. So that's kind of, I guess, a little bit of my experience and how I've kind of grown in learning about narcissism, is that it's really about coming back to yourself and strengthening who you are, so that if and or when, because I think it's really when for all of us, you encounter someone who's a narcissist, you can be yourself and you can stay out of being, the triggered little kid that's afraid of rejection and abandonment and punishment and all of those things too.
Wow, that was great. How about you, Chelle? What's coming up for you when you hear all that?
That was me going to hide underneath the table there, because Steena kind of like hit the nail on the head with that one. All the fears of letting other people down and feeling abandoned, and like you're never doing enough or enough of the right things. And they dangle that carrot, right? They dangle that reward, that goal, that finish line in front of you, right? And then they retract it as soon as you do the thing that they want. That's definitely been my experience with it, of like, oh, well, you've been saying for some time now, like, I hear you, like you've been wanting X, Y, and Z. And I'm more than happy to do it for you if you'll just do this. And then you do the thing, and then they flip the script. Oh, well, I never said when we were going to do it, or you must have. I don't think I said that. Are you sure I said that? Like, I don't remember saying that. And they'll like tell you things to make you think that you're crazy, to make you question yourself. Well, could I have misunderstood that? Like, where did I go wrong? Like, how did I not understand that you actually meant this? And you question yourself. And yeah, you're right. They do play on your like idiosyncrasies, though the weaknesses, if you will, which are not really weaknesses if you can flip the script on them. They play on the people pleasing tendencies and the imposter syndrome, not thinking you're good enough. And so many other ways that they can just rear their ugly heads, and we just need to silence them. We just need to be more aware of like how these things can present themselves, because it comes up in so many different ways. And yeah, I'm actually gonna not hide under the table. I'm here. I am in front of all these amazing people, and yeah, I am trying to actively stand up for myself and challenge the previous narcissism that really took hold of me. So
right,
yeah, it's
and are you trying, or are you doing your best?
I am
in the moment. Are you doing your best?
I am always doing my best.
All right.
To be better, and to improve. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's the action.
And it's interesting. Our best isn't really like our best, right? It's in the moment. So
it's my best right now.
Right. And what's going through and what's happened or whatever. And like, oh, I've done better than this. Yeah, well, that's not what your best is, right? When we get into the definitions of best. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, Dorrit.
Yeah. When I was, right before I turned 19, I met this wonderful guy that from across the country, and he said all the right things and treated me like a princess, and I was floating. I would never been treated that way before. It's not common for the guys around where I grew up to say those things and to be like that. So when he swooped in, I was just blown away. We were boyfriend, girlfriend after 3 weeks. We were engaged after 3 months, and we had a kid after 1.5 years. All was well until I was actually going to the hospital to have our son. He decided to go on a trip with his workmates to Denmark to check out another facility similar to the one that they were working on. I was 10 days late, so it wasn't a surprise that there would be a baby any day soon, but he decided to go anyway, and that was kind of the first red flag for me. After that, it just went downhill. He was treating me like I was a maid. He didn't do anything with the kid or with anything in the house, or he would just come home from work, drop his dirty work clothes in the middle of the living room, go into the bathroom, do whatever he needed, wet towels on the floor, that kind of a thing. He didn't even close the cabinet doors or drawers after being in the kitchen. I had to do all of it. And I was like, what? So I didn't know at the time that this guy was having serious issues and being the biggest narcissist. I thought it was normal to just give me a little bit of money and then leave me for 2-3 weeks while he went to another part of the country to party with his mates while I was sitting there with my little baby. So yeah, it took me 3 years. I went to a lot of doctors and physiotherapy and chiropractors because my neck was just like I had my shoulders up to my ears. I was so full of stress, and and I remember what tipped me over to kind of thinking that I need to do something about this was a physiotherapist when I was there for the urgent time. And she said, if you are okay, your son will be okay. And I was like, oh, I don't have to stay in this relationship with this guy just so our little son has his father sometimes. And yeah, it ended really dramatically when I kicked him out. I had to have like a secret phone number and a secret address for, I can't remember, 4 or 5 years. Yeah. So it was not a good place to be. And I didn't know that it was called a narcissist. I didn't know that this was, I just thought he was crazy. But I found out later that this is more common that I like to know.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really toughie. And the best part, though, in your story is your son does have a relationship with him, and you know, he's in your life, not in your life, so to speak.
Yeah, we have a civilized relationship. He was here for our son's confirmation, and I've seen him a couple of times after that. We used to ship, sounds terrible, but we used to ship our son by plane because it was so far that we couldn't just drive.
Oh.
So we would ship him with like air hostess or something that would follow him. So we just delivered him at the airport, and then he would pick up in Oslo, and I would pick up here.
How often did that happen?
Like once a month. He was there for a weekend.
Wow.
Mm.
How about you, Terry? Because you've heard a lot of their stories in their books, and what's coming up for you with that topic?
I do want to say that it's just not masculine. Narcissism is both sexes, and they all draw on the same energy, the same frailties, etc. Somebody taught them how to do that, and it just hammered itself in, and it's not coming out. They feel safer in narcissistic mode than allowing any vulnerability, what I've seen and heard and listened to a couple of them. And so I think that's everybody listening today, you get to know that it's just not bad men out there. There's both sides of the sexes. Okay. So I think that's important.
Yeah, that's very important.
Here you go. Here's a check-in. Hard relation. Hard is right. Hard is right. Thank you, Walter.
Yeah. And the idea of like that combination of empath versus like narcissist, it's not so much a versus. They're kind of both doing the same thing, only it's opposite. So the empath is coming in, trying to love, sometimes needing love, and other times empathically just wanting to help that other person. And for the narcissist, love is super, super threatening because love equates to pain. And so, what seems so crazy in the behaviors, like they both get a little crazy in their behaviors. And one of the examples, I don't know if Bindu said this one or not, but the example I heard at one point was there's all these different stages: the love bombing, the gaslighting, the ghosting, the threatening to leave, the ghosting. And so, in just the threatening to leave, so the narcissist leaves, the empath runs out, jumps on the hood of the car, the narcissist speeds off and throws the empath off the car, and the empath's like, why would you do that to me? And the narcissist, well, I wouldn't have to do it to you if you hadn't jumped on my car. And it's just this vicious circle. Yeah. And they say with narcissism, it's like pretty much like developmentally at age 3. So how a 3-year-old is going to respond and understand, and yeah, it's interesting. Steena, you have some tips, like some communication tips or boundary tips?
I was just thinking, I had a conversation with my partner last night, and something that I find really, really, really important in any relationships, but I learned this when I was dating. It's really important that when you're connected to yourself, you ask yourself, what do I want to give in a relationship? And what feels really good for me to give in a relationship? And stop asking people, what do you want out of a relationship? Or, what are you looking for? Like, come to the table with what you have to give, and know your own boundaries of what feels good for you to give and commit to, because that allows other people to decide if they want that or not, if that's going to work for them. It leaves a lot less room for manipulation, because if you tell someone else, let's just say in the dating sphere, I'm looking for somebody who has these qualities, who is spiritual and who, goes to therapy. Like, you make it kind of performative, right? You give them like a prescription of what you're looking for. They can lie to you about those things. They can spin a story. They can say, they can tell you how they're going to grow. They can really play on that, instead of you letting them show you who they are and show you what they want to give in the relationship. It's a much more empowered place to meet someone and understand who they really are. As far as communication tips, if you're dealing with a narcissist, my probably number one communication tip, and this is, I want to also kind of caveat that when I say when you're dealing with a narcissist, you don't have to go around diagnosing people or labeling people. You could just be dealing with somebody who's an asshole, there's also that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're not all narcissists. They're not all clinically diagnosable narcissists.
Right.
However, boundaries are boundaries. Communication is communication. Healthy relationships are healthy relationships. So if you just stick to those principles, then it will produce success regardless to whether or not you're dealing with a narcissist. So one thing is, like, if you're just in a situation where communication feels messy, there's weird power plays going on, you don't feel like you have a voice, you're overwhelmed or anxious about their text messages, phone calls, that kind of thing, you're not going to be able to have a healthy exchange. So I recommend choosing one form of communication. Usually email is the best. And just, you can ask some people, you can ask or say, I'll only, can we just only communicate this way? Or I'll only be communicating with you through this channel. And, having emails that are one topic only. So you don't write an email with 3 different questions in it about 3 different things. You send one email per thing so that they can respond to that one thing. And then you're not getting caught in a web of communication where, especially if this is like a parenting situation, you might have one question that's just like a very factual thing, right? It might be about a doctor's appointment. And then there might be like 3 other things that you don't want to respond to that are personal questions or irrelevant to to that question. So simplifying it, getting communication in one channel, something that you're not going to be pinged by on your phone all the time, something that you're not going to be anxious about all the time. You can sit down, read the email, think through what you have to say, and it gives you the ability to kind of filter out, what are they communicating to me that's actually factual, that's based in reality, that I need to respond to, and what's kind of all this other stuff that they're throwing in my direction. So, I mean, and I use that, like, I kind of use that across the board. I use that for healthy client communications. I've used that for healthy communications with different professionals that I've worked with. And it just really keeps things streamlined so that you don't have Facebook Messenger, text message, phone calls, Slack, like all of these different things. One channel, and make sure that it's keeping things really succinct. And that, to me, has decreased my anxiety communicating with people.
Yeah.
Like so much. And then you can be so much more present with people when you're responding to them too. You're not frantic, you know, in the moment. So.
And I've noticed, like, it's the second you don't understand something, you're like, wait, what? You know, so like, what are we talking about? And you get real concrete, real specific, and back on track yourself. Or even if you're wondering, okay, what is that person pulling right now, or any of it, it's like, wait, what? And yeah, that's really good. And I know you've had like friends that have been like more of that, you know, floaty personality, and it just doesn't really work for you, because it, like you said, it kind of gets you into more of a web feeling, and then now what, you know, and you get yourself into a situation that you didn't really want to do that. It didn't sound like that's what you were doing. Now it's like, no, I don't want to do that. So
yeah, nobody likes that feeling. Like, the feeling of I agreed to something and it turned into something that I would never have agreed to in the first place.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely one for like a clean exchange. You know, you like being really honest with people and very clear, so that I have to say what I have to say, and then you have to say what you have to say. And, you know, and I'm very honest with my friends now. Like, I've learned how to be very clear about what I want, very clear about what I'm available for, very clear about where my energy is, you know, because you can have spontaneity and flexibility that doesn't feel wishy-washy and overwhelming or anxiety producing.
Right.
So
that's so good. Yeah. And we have a question that popped up. You want to put that on?
Actually, there was a couple of them, but
okay.
This one came in from Aisha. What do you say? Even professionals go through this narcissism problem. Yes, you know, behavioral health people usually go into behavioral health because they're dealing with issues too, and they want to help themselves as well and help other people. So yeah, that was a good question. And then there's another one here that I think is very valid, because there's some children running around this crew, and that is, how do you deal with a child who's starting to show narcissistic behaviors, right? You know, that reinforcement of their anxiety only makes them worse, whereas support of their anxiety and help them to work through it while it's still floating around in there in spin mode is huge. Good one, Walter. That's a great question.
Yeah, thank you for that. I recall working with a mom who was married to a narcissist who, by the time I knew her, she had they had separated, and she had I think a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And it's interesting because now I've heard that, like, that kind of 3-year-old threshold thing. And so and that's the mom I actually heard it from, now I think back. And so yeah, working with this little 2-year-old, because she had picked up on a lot of the personality and behaviors of her dad, and making sure that we were moving her out of those patterns. So I did a lot of absurd therapy with her, and she had a lot of fears as well. So yeah. All right, this was awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. This was great.
Did Dorrit have something? Dorrit, I saw her raise her hand.
Did you, Dorrit?
Yeah, I just wanted to have a quick comment to Walter's last question, the one with the kids. I see sometimes when I have clients that, well, everything goes back to your childhood or a past life. And I would say that a kid that already shows narcissistic tendencies, or in any kid at all, we of course want them to learn to have like confidence and to have that I'm good enough feeling. But to put them up on a pedestal and you're the king of the world or you're the queen of the world, that's where it kind of rocks a little bit and can tip over. So I would suggest teaching them compassion and a little bit of being humble and empathy to kind of water out that narcissistic up on a pedestal kind of a behavior.
Yeah, works with dogs too, huh, Dorrit?
and also accountability.
Yeah, that too.
Also teaching accountability. You want them to take accountability for their actions.
Yeah.
That way it's not a situation later on when someone can say, oh, well, I didn't say that. You must have misunderstood, or that's not what I meant, or I don't remember saying it. You take that out of the equation if you've taught them to be accountable for what they say and what they do. So
consequences. Yeah.
Chelle, have you watched Rain? Have you watched that series? Oh, okay. Because there was a point in there where the young king had brought some drugs to a girl and she was passed out, and the one of the older men came in to help the situation, but he made the young king go get the bucket of water and go do this and go do that. And he's like, why should I have to do it? And he goes, because this is your responsibility. And, even for a king. And it was so healthy for this young man to take accountability. So like that taking over and doing everything for a kid, that's not healthy. Thanks, everybody.
Been a great conversation. Thanks, everybody. And thank you, folks, for listening in today and the great comments, as well as those who are going to listen to the recording later on. Thanks again. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.